In this video we're going to learn how to solve trig equations using cast diagrams. Solve sin x equals root 3 over 2 for x between 0 and 360 degrees. So you start by taking inverse sine of this number. So inverse sine of root 3 over 2. Just plug that into the calculator, and if you don't know how to do that, you just press the shift button and then you press the trig function that you're trying to find the inverse of. So in this example you just press the sine button. So that gives 60 degrees, and then you draw out your cast diagram. So SATC, and then you look at the original equation and you see if the function is positive or negative. So sine is positive for this equation because that's a positive number. So the quadrants where sine is positive are this quadrant and this quadrant. So you put the angle in those quadrants. And then you measure the angles from the initial line. So it's always counterclockwise, as we explained in the cast diagram video. So that would be 60 degrees. So that's one solution. And then the second angle is 180 minus 60. Because up to this line, that would be 180 degrees. So up to here, it would just be 180 minus 60. So that's the second solution. And that gives 120 degrees. So the solutions are 60 degrees and 120 degrees. Solve cos x equals 1 over 5 for the same range as before, so 0 to 360. So we start by taking inverse cos of 1 over 5. So that gives 78.46 to 2 decimal places. And then you draw the cast diagram. SATC, and then since cos is positive for this equation, it would be this quadrant and this quadrant. So 78.46, 78.46, and then you just measure from the initial line. So this angle would be 78.46. The second angle would be 360 minus 78.46. So that gives 281.54. So those are the solutions. Solve tan x equals minus 1 over 3 for x between 0 and 360. So you start by taking the inverse tan of this number, but when you've got a negative number, you wouldn't include the negative sign. So it would just be the inverse tan of 1 over 3. So that's 18.43. Then you draw your cast diagram. And for this equation, we can see that tan is negative. So it would be this quadrant and this quadrant. And then you just measure from the initial line. So that would be 180 minus 18.43. So that gives 161.57. And then the second solution is 360 minus 18.43. And that gives 341.57. Final example, solve sin x equals -1 for x between 0 and 360. So you start by taking the inverse sine of 1, so you don't include the negative sign. So that gives 90 degrees. And then you draw your cast diagram. And then you put the angle into the correct quadrants. So since sine is negative, it would be this quadrant and this quadrant. And then you measure from the initial line. So this angle would be 180 plus 90. And the second angle would be 360 minus 90. So we get the same solution for both angles. So when this happens, it would only be one solution. So you just write, therefore, that just means therefore, x equals 270 degrees.